Last year I released a behemoth 6-hour long video ranking every track in the Mario Kart series, from Super Mario Kart through to Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. I was not expecting to be revisiting that video so soon, but Nintendo had other ideas and dropped a new Mario Kart as a launch title for the Switch too, so I'm back again to rank all of the tracks from the game. Since this game works differently from previous games, I had to decide how I would be ranking the tracks to make comparison to the original list as fair as possible. In this ranking, the routes between each of the tracks will not be considered. However, the tracks which have multiple variants that are significantly different will have each one considered separately, with the mirrored, shortened and reversed versions considered to not be significantly different from the main track. This brings the total down from over 200 to only 39 tracks to rank. The ranking system I will be using is the same as that used in my previous Mario Kart track ranking video, giving each track a score for its layout, how fun it is, its uniqueness, its aesthetics and its music, before adding those 5 scores together to get a final score. Without further ado, let's get into the ranking. Obviously, one of the tracks in this game has to have the dubious honour of being the worst, and that goes to the first version of Peach Stadium as seen in the Shell Cup. It is a rectangle and over in seconds. Not only that, but it's one of the 2 tracks accessible through travelling from other tracks that isn't a part of the main track. Additionally, it's one of the tracks listed and driven in a Grand Prix, and it's not just any track, it's the final track of the Cup. It's an absolute anticlimax and completely deserving of the bottom spot for this game. In fact, if every track in the series were completely modernised, this would almost definitely end up as the worst in the series. Even the tribute to Koopa Beach 1, which landed at the bottom of my original list, is better than this. By driving to Mario Circuit from Boo Cinema in Versus Race, you can play SNES Mario Circuit 1 without the other 2 Mario Circuit tracks. There isn't really much to say other than it's a good modernisation of the first track in the series. Mario Circuit 3 is played alone when travelling from Moo Moo Meadows, Starview Peaks, or Dandelion Depths in Versus Race. It's not the most exciting, but it is the best version of the most common track in the series. Mario Circuit 2 is played when arriving from Dry Bones Burnout, Toad's Factory or Bowser's Castle in Versus Race. It isn't particularly exciting on its own, but beats out the other 2 because of the ramp, like in the original. The Shell Cup is really not doing great in this game, with both of the bottom 2 Grand Prix tracks belonging to it. Koopa Troopa Beach, a remake of SNES Koopa Beach 2, does a really good job modernising the aesthetics and music of the track, making it now feel like a music festival on a tropical island. However, it has also made the layout more circular, and therefore less interesting. It's by no means as bad as this Cup's version of Peach Stadium, but in a game with as many bangers as Mario Kart World, being just okay won't get you very far. Our next track is another SNES remake. Mario Circuit takes Mario Circuit 1, 2 and 3 from the first game and combines them into a single track, with 1 lap driven around each. It's a good concept and helps modernise the original tracks a bit, but at this point I would like to see them bring back other tracks, as this marks the 4th return appearance of Mario Circuit 1 and Mario Circuit 2, while Mario Circuit 3 has returned in 5 games, if Tour and the extra tracks in Super Circuit are counted. Personally, I'd have liked to see the Mario Circuit 4 finally make an appearance, if they had to bring back a SNES Mario Circuit, purely because it hasn't had a chance in the spotlight, but combining them is at least something to make it feel a bit different. Speaking of tracks that I don't think should have come back again, Desert Hills, originally from Mario Kart DS, is slightly better than its previous iteration, although has lost a lot of its visual identity, with the only notable reference to Super Mario Bros. 3 being the angry sun on the starting line. The layout has a bit more going on this time, and the enemies have been replaced with Batadons and Tokotokos from Super Mario Land. The Tokotokos start moving on later laps, like they sprint down the tracks, which I still love. Overall, is a pretty decent track, although not the most exciting. The first version of Crown City, seen in Mushroom Cup, is fairly decent. The layout isn't the most interesting and the track isn't the most unique, but it's pretty fun, looks great, and has good music. It does have its memorable moments, such as jumping through the giant trophy. However, overall, the other versions of the track have much more going on and are more interesting as well. The starting track of this game, Mario Bros. Circuit, is pretty good. The layout is both simple and interesting at the same time, and serves as a good introduction to the main new features, being rail grinding and wall riding. It's one of the more unique circuits, being themed to both the original Mario Bros. Game and the Western United States, particularly areas in and around Arizona. Personally, the vibe reminds me of the film Cars, and I like that film, so that's a fun bonus. Versus Race has its own exclusive area of Crown City, which can be played when travelling from Peach Stadium, Moo Moo Meadows, or Choco Mountain. This secret third version of the track mainly focuses on the roads near the coastline, as well as the restaurant plaza area seen when leaving Crown City for was the soft summit in the Mushroom Cup. The later section of the track has racers jumping into the water near Crown Bridge for a bit, and overall it's pretty good with plenty of diverging routes along the way. The Shell Cup version of Crown City has the more interesting layout of the two versions of the track found in Grand Prix mode. The narrow back alleys are rather chaotic, and the alternative routes from driving upon the rooftops and wall riding add to the chaos. The track is pretty decent, and it's the best of the individual sections of Crown City, although the quality of the tracks in this game prevents it from placing any higher. Mario Kart World's version of Choco Mountain loses some of its uniqueness, looking less like chocolate, instead taking on a much muddier look. The mountain itself now looks like a car or monster truck, and the new mechanics give some new options for navigating the track, although not a ton. Overall, it's a solid track, although outshone by many of the other tracks in this game. The new version of Moo Moo Meadows in Mario Kart World is on par with the version seen in Mario Kart 8, in my opinion. There are a few differences, with the version from World being more open than previous versions, particularly around the start of the track and before the area with the split paths. This more open design opens up many more options for shortcuts, and overall it's still a solid track. Of course, the cows are still the best part though. The version of Peach Stadium seen in the Special Cup versus race and in time trials feels far more like an actual track than the version in the Shell Cup. The layout's really good, with plenty of fun side routes you can take. It isn't the most unique track in the series though, appearing to be more of a mix of several earlier tracks like Mario Kart Stadium, Royal Raceway and Mario Kart 8's Mario Circuit. However, it looks really nice and the music's pretty good too. Mario Kart World finally remade the last remaining track from Mario Kart 64, Wario Stadium. The layout has been simplified, removing much of the noodly middle section. However, the new layout has a good flow to it, and the trick system definitely elevates the track. The aesthetic of the track has been overhauled significantly, now looking like a scrap heap used to fashion a rickety stunt track that breaks every single safety regulation possible. It's a fun modernisation of the classic track and pretty solid overall, although personally I wouldn't mind seeing a more noodly version with the trick system. When driving to Peach Beach from another track in Versus Race, the original track from Double Dash is entirely skipped, with only the new sections driven. These new sections are pretty good and stand up on their own, although the earlier town section is definitely the better of the two, primarily thanks to the variety of optional routes. These added sections alone would beat the original if it were playable separately in this game. DK Pass returns in this game with some fun changes. The final section has been updated again, with a pair of jumps making their way down the hill instead of a single jump or glide ramp. The forest section has also been revamped with more trick options and rails. The overall theme has been changed to a ski resort, which does make for some overlap with DK Summit / DK Snowboard Cross from Mario Kart Wii. However, the track itself is still solid and a lovely wintry track overall. Dandelion Depths is a pretty good track. The layout's really fun with plenty of alternate routes throughout. However, the cave theme isn't especially unique and the industrial mine aesthetic isn't the nicest in the game. The music is a fun vibe and overall it's an enjoyable track, although not the most immediately memorable. The full version of Crown City, found in Versus Race and Time Trials, is by a fairly significant margin the best of the four. The track is divided into sections, with the first section featuring the always seen Shell Cup version, driven in the opposite direction, before completing a lap of the Mushroom Cup version for the second. The final section travels along the coastline to reach the finish line, following much of the route from the version seen when driving from Peach Stadium, Moo Moo Meadows or Chocolate Mountain. The full track is rather fun and unique, with plenty of variety throughout the entire layout. Faraway Oasis is another good track, and the best of the Shell Cup by a significant margin. The track is pretty fun and has a solid layout with plenty of options for alternative routes. The track also looks great and the music's really good too. The track's only downside is that the Savannah theme, although not previously seen in the series, is not particularly inventive and feels fairly generic somehow. Mario Kart World's version of Peach Beach greatly expands upon the original layout, adding a large area to the track that makes up the second and third sections. As mentioned earlier, this area has a bunch of alternative routes and the whole track looks great. The original area is more enjoyable than in previous versions, thanks to being able to drive on the water, and the music's still pretty good. The new area, the track helps it stand out a bit more among the beach tracks in the series, and they're a welcome addition to the track. Mario Kart World's version of Sky High Sunday definitely improves upon the original. adding more routes with rail grinding and wall riding, bringing many more options. The track itself also looks far nicer now, and the added options really make it much more fun. Overall, it's a solid improvement to a track that desperately needed it. The new version of Wario Shipyard, or Wario's Galleon, seen in Mario Kart World is definitely different from the original, thanks to underwater driving being replaced with the jet ski mode. Personally, I find the new water mechanics much more enjoyable than the old ones, so it's a welcome change. The addition of rail grinding also improves the track a fair bit, and the improved music and graphic help bring things together really well. Throwbone's Burnout is a really solid track overall. The theme is pretty unique, combining a lava theme and elements from Bone Dry Dunes with inspiration from Dia de los Muertos to create an interesting track. The layout is also solid, with plenty of diverging paths using both wall riding and rail grinding. The track looks great and the music's solid as well, bringing everything together for a really good experience overall. Boost Cinema has a fairly simple layout with a few options for rail grinding and wall riding at points. However, the track itself is pretty fun and the presentation really makes this one stand out. The theme of a haunted cinema is really fun and unique, and the track looks great with great atmospheric music as well. Overall, the track's really good in my opinion, even if the layout isn't the best. And here's your obligatory absolute cinema joke, because everyone makes that joke for this track, and I am unoriginal. Starvey Peak is a beautiful track and really fun thanks to the boosted water section. The layout isn't the most interesting, but works really well in my opinion. It's pretty unique with a nice comet observatory inspired theme at the top of a snow mountain. The music's lovely too, and this is one of the tracks that makes me feel like I want to be there. Salty Salty Speedway is a very fun track, with a solid layout that has plenty of alternative routes accessible through wall riding and rail grinding. The Venetian vibe of the track also looks really nice and is rather unique for the series. The music is also really good, and overall the track comes together really well. And this is another one that I'd like to visit if it were real. DK Spaceport has a fairly basic layout on the face of it, snaking back and forth up to the top of the launch tower. However, the track is littered with obstacles that change on each straightaway, and the whole track wears the inspiration from 25 meters from the original Donkey Kong game on its sleeve. The track looks great and like it came straight out of the arcade cabinet, and the music has so many fun references, including the hammer theme on the final stretch with Robo DK throwing barrels at racers. Overall, it's a fun track that has a great vibe that's unique and honours the roots of the whole Mario series. Whistle Stop Summit is a really fun track with a pretty solid layout. The rail grinding throughout is really enjoyable, and the track has a pretty unique theme with a mountaintop with railway and steampunk vibes. The track looks great and the music's absolutely great as well. And, you know, trains. The final track variant exclusive to Versus Race is the Daisy's Palace variant of Shaggy Bazaar, playable by travelling from Airship Fortress or Wario Stadium. Like the normal layout, there are plenty of split paths throughout and it's about on par with the main layout, though it's a shame we can only play it for a single lap as part of a race with routes, as it's a really solid track in its own right. Mario Kart World's version of Shaggy Bazaar is really fun and has plenty of split paths adding to the already existing ones, accessible again through wall riding and rail grinding. The track looks great too, and the music's pretty good as well, with this updated version of the track being great overall. Acorn Heights is another great new addition, with plenty of diversity and routes available throughout the track. It also looks great and has a fun theme similar to Wild Woods from 8, but distinct enough to be recognisable as its own theme. The music is great and really brings the whole track together really well. Mario Kart World brings back Dino Dino Jungle from Double Dash with several new additions and a new theme. The new theme for the track looks like it has come straight out of a Jurassic Park movie, and the greater variety of dinosaurs is a welcome addition too. There are also more interactions with the dinosaurs as well as new routes added. The track looks great and the music's pretty good too, making for a strong track overall. Toad's Factory has been brought back from Mario Kart Wii and it looks better than ever before. On top of looking great, the addition of wall running and rail grinding has made the track much more fun and introduced more routes. The new version of the music sounds incredible and the track overall is amazing. The new Bowser's Castle track is incredible. The layout has tons of opportunities for shortcuts with wall riding and rail grinding, including some massive skill checks, and half the track is a long boosted section. The giant Bowser Cloud looks great and the whole track is incredibly fun. It's a really unique take on Bowser's Castle, having a more industrial theme mixed with a sky theme. It also looks amazing overall and the music's great too. Everything just comes together really well to make a really great track. Chip Chip Falls is another new track that is really fun. The track has several branching paths and a pretty unique vibe, feeling like a Zen garden within an autumnal setting and pagodas. The music's really good, the layout's solid, and the track looks great, with the whole package being really enjoyable. But that is if you actually like the water mechanics, which I do. Great Question Block Ruins is an amazing new track. The layout has loads of alternative routes that can be accessed through wall riding and rail grinding, as well as incredibly technical shortcuts, such as at the end just before the glide ramp. The Floating Ancient Ruins theme is rather unique and both the music and the aesthetics are great too, creating a near perfect Mario Kart track. The best of the returning tracks in Mario Kart World, Airship Fortress is incredible. The addition of rail grinding has improved the track's layout and made it much more fun. The new version of the music sounds amazing and the track just looks stunning, with the explosions and fire really just selling the vibe. Overall, everything comes together really well, putting this track up there with the greats and finally bringing it to home console entries. When I wrapped up the previous video, I wondered what Nintendo would do for the next installment, and if they'd top my favourite track from that list, which you're going to have to watch the video to find out. What I was hoping for, but not expecting, was something out there. And then we got this. Nintendo absolutely cooked with this Rainbow Road. It's a 4-minute long odyssey that looks absolutely beautiful with a layout that's absolutely wild. Quite frankly, this track is so incredible that it breaks my scoring system completely. Honestly, in my eyes, this track is near perfect and truly deserves its place as best in the series so far. Thank you so much for watching. I've absolutely been loving Mario Kart World since it was released and decided to make this video as soon as I could. I've also been working on some other stuff in the background over the past few months. I've got a couple of other relatively small videos in the pipeline that should hopefully be ready soon, and another big project that's in the works which will take a while to get done. Over on Twitch, I've been working my way through Hollow Knight Silksong. I would love it if you could come along and check that out. But yeah, in any case, like, comment, subscribe. Be sure to check out my Twitch to catch me live, and check the VODs channels for previous streams. Thank you again for watching, and I hope to see you all next time.